as I get old, I don't know if this is just me or aging in general, but I know that as I get older, the magic in life, it's not so much from where you go or what you do or what you accomplish. It's really the people that you meet. And last year in Perth, Australia, completely randomly, and I think you and I both think it was much more than random, we just were thrown together to co-present a session at IASA in Perth. And I was so riveted by what Francis was saying and his message that I introduced him to Ruta and to Karen, and I think I almost begged to say, you have to listen to this guy because his message is so powerful. And there's about 50 things I could say about him in his biography. The one thing I will say is that just in May of this year, on request of the President of Cameroon, he was presented with the rank of Knight of Cameroon Order of Valor, which is the second highest Medal of Honor in the country. And so Francis he's never been to the United States before. I picked him up at the airport on Saturday morning. We've had 3 nights together in New Orleans. We're driving from here to Las Vegas for 25 hours with videographers in the back seat. Then we're flying to California, to Colorado, to Maryland, and then to DC. And we'll have an interesting 20-minute documentary to show you in a couple of months that I have no idea what it will be. But he does have, he brought for me an outfit like this. So in Las Vegas, the two of us are walking down the strip with me as his bodyguard. So it's my honor. Francis has several last names that I can't pronounce, but to me, he's like Madonna. He's a one-name guy. So it's my honor to introduce you to Francis. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by, again, thanking Ruta and the wonderful team at Pioneer Network. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Jack once again with the gracious team at It's Never Too Late to have given me this wonderful opportunity to come to the United States of America for the first time. I have been to many countries in 16 years, but I never knew why I never had the opportunity to come to the United States. This year and last year, meeting Jack in Perth was the absolute reason why graciously I should come to the United States and be given the unique opportunity to speak at this event. I'd like to tell you that this is the biggest audience and the most beautiful I've ever spoken in, thanks to the Pioneer Network. Thank you very much indeed. But what is the beauty in this event? What is the beauty in what I see? What is the beauty in what I have learned? Resonates in the care that exists in the United States of America. It resonates in the spirit of the United States to provide a society where the elderly can lead more dignified and respectful lives. I've learned a lot from that. More importantly, when I look at a small country from where I come, Cameroon is a small country in West Africa, 23 million people as compared to 320 million people across this glorious, beautiful, hard-working country. It looked like a mosquito in between the legs of an elephant, if you compare the two. And this takes me to the beginning of my journey in care for the elderly, which I'm so happy to share with you this morning. About 18 years ago, or about 44 years ago, I was born into a typical poor rural African setting. And I lived a life of absolute poverty. My father had 3 wives. My mother was the first of his 3 wives. And my mother had 10 children. The second wife of my father had 8 children. And my father's third wife had 6 children. He had only 3 small thatched houses. And as I was growing up, I was living with my father in this little thatched house made up of bamboo and earth, just made to manage to host us. We were sleeping on bamboo beds. And in the night, these bamboos were not enough. So when we were like 4 on the same bed, and you tried to turn because one part of your body was getting painful, the bamboos gave way because they were not enough, and we found ourselves under the bed. Because chicken was put in the house to share the same space, when we landed on the chicken and the chicken disturbed my father, he would quickly get up. He valued his chickens a little bit more than we were, and he would give us a beating of our life. These were lessons we had to learn. In 1996, my father died. And when my father died, I learned one key lesson that changed my life and started changing the lives of many people. When my father died, I realized that tradition did not permit us, or my mother or her other co-wives, to succeed my father's property. Everything was taken away from my mother, especially the landed property. This was where they had all the food to farm and eat. We had no place to live. My mother had to pack out of this poor home where we were living. If you look at the slide in front of you, you're going to see a collapsed house. You're going to see pots in that same place. These are my mother's pots. You will see a bed under the earth. These are my mother's beds that she left and just went. Now, I looked at this and I wondered. Something came to my mind. And I remember one president in the United States, John F. Kennedy. He said, we should not ask what America has done to us, but what we have done to America. So I asked myself a question. I cannot ask what these elderly senior people of my parents have done to me, but indeed, what have I done to them? Is it possible that I could change the situation where my mother and other women find themselves? And it became clear that I took the bull by the horns, went against traditional norms and values, to start telling my mother I must have to speak out, but I can't do this alone. Please help me. So we speak to other widows in the community. They come together and we try to raise your voices to speak against this kind of bad tradition that is disrespecting you of your fundamental human rights. She was, first of all, afraid, but I went ahead to speak to other women. When I spoke to other women, the women accepted they could join her. When we started growing this conversation, which was a bit difficult from the beginning, I started receiving life threats. I was told this was an impossible thing to do. I was told I was too young to try to attempt to defend women. Women were used as private property, and the men could do to them as they wish. Of course, what helped us at the time was that the coffee that gave men the income from where they had a lot of strong belief for themselves and could marry more women was no longer doing well in the world market. They were already poor. And the women that they rejected were now getting food from their farms and using the income from the food to pay for the children's school fees. So quite many times, a man in his compound will go to his wife and ask, did you sell some vegetable? May I have a bit of money? Our son, our daughter, has just been sent away from school. And the woman would proudly remove money from her pocket and give her husband to go ahead. This is what helped us. So one of the leaders noticed that the wife had helped him and decided to say, okay, I think what this little young man is saying is important. Let's listen to him. And we continued the conversation. 18 years down the line, this conversation has become a conversation of possibility. We decided to set up the Community Development Volunteers for Technical Assistance as an organization that will provide care and promote positive messages on the rights of elderly women, especially widows. But because we could not do this, leaving out the men, we decided that the men would join and our support will go to 25% men. And in quotes, and embedded in our activities, women will receive, 75% women will receive our support. That is how our activities started. And I'd like to just show you where I'm standing in front of my mother's collapsed house. I'm standing on my father's grave. That is where my father was buried. And when I went there with my wife for the first time, my wife asked me, "Were you really born and raised here?" And I said, "Yes, I was born and raised here." There's a popular saying that suffering breeds character. Character breeds responsibility. Responsibility breeds faith. And when we have faith in God and hard work, and we are focused on anything, this will truly and indeed become our reality. I decided that since divine providence had given me the opportunity to walk out of this poverty and gain a bit of education, I must have to go back down to this community and begin giving to these elderly women and elderly people the possibility they gave me to exist as a person. And when you look at this, our compound is very remote. So that is the route going out of compound. I'm not going to say a lot about that. This is the temporal accommodation that when my mother left my father's compound, she moved to. In fact, it was just about 5 years ago when we have championed care for the elderly in Cameroon for many years, I decided to take a small loan from a bank to give my mother a small living accommodation where she lives now. But what is happening is CDVT is now championing care for older people in 6 different areas. The first one is social inclusions. In social inclusions, we try to bring elderly people together as groups in the community. This is to help combat loneliness. This is to help enable them see one another. This is to help them plan their activities together as a group. It is to enable them know how to prioritize their problems and know how to put solutions to these problems together as a team. This is also to enable them think as a community. We want to maintain the community social solidarity amongst the African communities and families, that they must stay close to their families. As compared to United States, where you have advanced residential care, I've had the opportunity these days to get good presentations on how care has advanced in the United States, good housing, good social protection, social security. These are opportunities that we do not have in our country, so we try to let them stay within their communities and use the local resources that are at their disposal in order to advance care at the community level. Now, I don't want to step a lot into problems that the elderly people face because you already know, but I just want to give you an example here, that elderly people in Cameroon and in my part of the country live in houses that look like this. They cook in the same space. If you see the walls look very dark, it's because of smoke. They live there. Some of them go blind because of smoke. A lot of them have a lot of health problems, nutritional problems. And you can see from here that even into advanced age, they continue to labor in far distant areas in order to have a way to earn a living. I want to show you something very specific here. And what I'm showing to you is a situation of hygiene and sanitation. In front of you is a local latrine. It is absolutely difficult for someone at the age of 70, 80, or 90 to use this latrine. These are the conditions in which they live. And when you look at it, you see that in these communities, children do not have a possibility for a better future. It means that the evil cycle of poverty will run through until they get into old age. That is why you see little girls become babysitters. They look after other little children. And now children have become a further handicap on the lives of the elderly. Because of the HIV and AIDS, a lot of young people who have children have died, and others have left the villages into the cities to look for a better life. So the children they leave behind are the care of their grandparents. And you find out that they look after the little ones. You can see a little child there helping the grandmama to bathe her little sister. This is as difficult as it is. You see another little child, many times because there's poverty, a lot of parents feel that if you are a girl, you'll be given out to marriage before the age of 15. And that is all about it. So we are trying to create intergenerational linkages between children and elderly people, but providing a possibility for the children to receive a gainful education so that there's some guarantee for a better future for them. Now, under social inclusions, these are the groupings, and you see people contributing money. They have learned to solve their own problems by themselves. They learn to come together as a team and resolve their own problems. Now, I want to say we carry out a lot of income-generating activities stemming from beekeeping, tree planting, goat rearing, ointment production. We also carry out things like cornmeal grinding machines so that they can generate income. But most recently, I want to take one case study. And the case study was a case study of Jack. When Jack listened to this story in Perth last year, my path crossed with Jack only for 15 minutes. Part of the 15 minutes were 10, where he listened to me speak. I don't know what caused me to be the first person to speak in that session. But the only thing Jack told me, your story is very inspirational. I share it. I'd like you to come and share this with us in the United States. Jack came back to the US and sent $500. And of the $500, we bought 9 female goats. And we took these 9 female goats behind the mountains and gave to 4 groups, including 2 elderly people. And the first woman who received this goat, her name was Tabitha. And Tabitha said, indeed, my granddaughter is telling me that if the man who has given this goat, who doesn't even know us, is called Jack, we must have to name this goat Jackie. So Jackie has become the absolute pioneer revolutionization of aging in Cameroon through income generating, through a sustainable goat scheme for elderly women. And they sang at the top of their voices, and they said, I must have to express their thanks for this. Now, just before I came to the United States, you will be happy to know that the Goat Sustainable Project funded by Jack, out of 9 goats that we gave, we now have 12. And I went to the field to monitor this project, and 3 additional goats are expecting new ones. I think before January next year, we're going to have 15 more goats. This is Tabitha, and these are the various goats that we gave out. This gardening and income generation, you look at financial contributions. There is ointment production. There is something very important about ointment production. Now, beekeeping for the elderly is an environmentally friendly activity, and we enable them plant trees. But some trees try taller than elderly people themselves, and they cannot climb on top of the trees. So what we try to do is we do tree grafting and breed the trees in such a way that they can only grow to the height of the elderly person, so he can stand and just pluck without climbing. But then, when we do honey harvesting, the wax is used, mixed with medicinal plants, to produce something called ointment, which is used to cure general body pains, general body surface rashes, and other things like rheumatic arthritis. Beekeeping has been introduced to women in CDVT as the first of our objectives to support women. Many years ago, beekeeping in Cameroon was meant only for men. But now, women are proud to be part of beekeeping, and it is a very high income generating factor for them in the communities. We talk now about rights. We say in our work that we cannot support somebody without enabling the national government to provide a policy for these people. Cameroon does not have a policy protecting the rights of older people. In fact, I was the first person to have ever attempted. Until today, people feel that it's not important to look after older people. So for 18 years, CDVT remains the only organization that has done well here, thanks to the donors that have been able to keep us alive and keep the elderly alive. We provide them the possibility to have identification papers. With a sense of identity, they are able to travel out of their communities. They can go and sign a bit of money if somebody sent the money. They can register and vote in elections, making their voices heard, influencing national sector policy in their favor. We also, in rights, enable them to come out in large numbers. Now, we formally used to ask them, participate in the International Day of the Elderly, 1st October. Participate on International Elder Abuse Day. Participate on the International Day of Human Rights. But the participation was in small, small groups. That did not seem to influence the government. We decided every year we will call like 15,000, like 20,000 to come together. And when they make a loud noise, it's the president of the country who hears it. Down the line, we have organized 6 conventions. And that is why government felt that they could not keep us behind any longer. In order to be afraid that we should not turn this into a political party, they came closer and they started working on the government policy in support of the elderly. And I'm pleased to inform you that in 2012, the government of my country, Cameroon, validated a national policy on aging. And again, we have taken poor elderly women from far-off communities who have never been to towns at all to move to the national capital and sit and eat with the Prime Minister on the same table, informing him of their problems. How did we get the government by their neck? We decided, okay, you pretend these people don't exist. How is it possible that in a whole society, people who have built a society will be left helpless? You can't possibly want to burn down your library because elderly people are a canopy of wisdom. We told elderly people the president, the governor, the general manager, the senior administrators are all your daughters and sons. If they refuse to listen to you, I'm sure one day they will come for your fingers. Okay? And when they come for your fingers, don't raise even one finger. Don't give them your hand. And the government knew that if this happens, then politics is not going to be okay. They decided to embrace it. And that is how it has been working. Traditional rulers in our country are important. You see somebody sitting down there with elephant tusk in front of him. This is called a first category traditional leader, first class. And first class traditional rulers in my countries will not even greet the president of Cameroon with their hand. If the president comes to them, he has to bend down in front of them and honor them. We decided to use traditional rulers in the front lines of our campaigns. So that when we bring in a traditional ruler here, a governor in the government is going to attend the occasion uninvited, and you'll be forced to listen. When we bring a traditional ruler, the media is going to attend and talk about the event everywhere without an invitation, without charging a fee. That is the rule of traditional rulers in our activities. Religious leaders are important to us too. We also work with senior religious leaders to influence national policy, to influence and promote the rights of the elderly. Welfare. CDVTA has 450 community-based active volunteers supporting the work of the elderly in the community. They collaborate with our field staff. Now, volunteers naturally are mature people above the age of 35 who live in their communities, who do not move out of their communities, who respect the elderly, they love development, they love the communities. And they ensure that they help elderly people in taking up minutes in meetings. They also ensure that they help out in gardens. They also ensure that they inform the elderly people it's time that we have our convention, we have a meeting. They support development at the local level. They speak the local language. They know the local culture. They are used to the traditional rulers. They are used to government at the local level. They can provide a follow-up in an aftermath of a crisis. These are the duties of a volunteer. Home visits, like you can see, are important in our work. And that is why here I project a picture to say, CDVTA's volunteer service in Cameroon has become very strong. If you look at the photograph, you'll see volunteers, more than 400 of them, participating on National Day celebration with the elderly. And that is how the force works out. They're proud of the work that they do. The next thing I'd like to say is intergenerational linkages. I'd already talked about this earlier. We realized it was impossible to support elderly people living out their children who live with them. And many times elderly people come to us asking us, is it not possible for us, for CDVTA to help provide a good education for our grandchildren? They do not have classrooms. They do not have benches. They don't have books. How can you do to make sure the cycle of poverty in which we grew is stopped at this level? So that while we are struggling to help ourselves now, our children in future, when they become elderly, will no longer be as poor. They will be able to understand their rights. And CDVTA engage children elderly interaction groups to enable the children to help the elderly on weekends. to enable the children to fetch water for elderly people, fetch firewood, and also for the children to listen to the stories of old age and the golden point of aging. At the same time, these children learn weaving from their grandparents. They learn carving from their grandparents. They do gardening in their schools and they share back at home. CDVT has also embarked on building beautiful classrooms. Now, when I go back to the community, I believe, okay, God gave me the opportunity to move out of this and succeed. I would not like to see children suffer the same fate like me. And here you find classrooms that we build. We give them good, improved ventilated toilets, which they can use in the communities. We also provide them with good benches that they can sit on and have a hope for a better future. We give them books that they can read. I never had books to read. Thank you, Jack. And you can see the children in schools and the different schools we built. So far, we have constructed 9 different schools for children linked up to the elderly. I like to say that actually, when you look at the classrooms, look at the kind of toilets that they get. This toilet looks very different from the previous one you saw, isn't it? This one is more dignified. This one gives a promise to the child that the future is bright. The sky is their limit. And therefore, I like to continue to say that we organize one of our strengths. The biggest strength that CDVT has had in 18 years is that we have a very strong, committed staff and committed volunteers. And there's one thing I learned from day one when I listened to the Love Matters from wise women. I learned about compassion. I learned about love. I learned about determination. I learned about focus. I learned about care. This is the care that United States, all caregivers here have embraced. This is the care I decided to embrace. And our staff team and our volunteers, who with the elderly are the heroes in the work that we do. I am just a servant in the process. Indeed, we hold this to the northwest corners of our hearts. Not just from the bottom. We hold it to the northwest corner of our heart. Because aging is golden. Aging is a blessing denied to many. Aging is a huge opportunity. Aging is cultural transformation, revolutionizing care in diversity, in its culture. Indeed, aging is an aspect advancing, changing, and upholding the norms and values that builds human transformation and human life. I adore this work that we do. And therefore, when I listen to care workers, nurses during this conference, I was amazed by the huge advanced work that you do in the United States of America. And I feel so proud and honored that myself and CDVT are part of this dream. We are indeed pioneers in pushing this forward. Thank you very much indeed. Another thing, I remember, Jack, I know 10 minutes I'll have to round up because I know this is the end. Actually, we gather these people with the faith that it is possible to do whatever is possible. I don't want to talk about our challenges because you can relate already, Cameroon, United States, with the challenges. But I want to say that despite the mountains that we climb, despite the difficulties that we face, we hold the work that we do dear to our hearts. And in this conference, with the wonderful, gracious, most blessed, glorious opportunity you have given to me to speak to this beautiful audience, I owe you a huge debt of gratitude from the northwest corner of my heart. Whether you come from any state in the United States, whether you come from Canada, whether you come from Cameroon like myself, whether you come from any part of the world at this network conference, indeed one thing is clear. We are all in love of caring and supporting and ensuring that the society becomes a most fulfilled, most dignified society for elderly people. We want to ensure that we make the world a better place for the elderly. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite you to say with me, this has always been my prayer for the work that we all do and which I adore. Repeat after me. I will do all I can, everywhere that I can, to enable people to become who they want to be And with God and all I can do, everything is possible in providing a world that will embrace elderly people and care. And just in conclusion, I like to sing this one. We will do all we can by all means that we can, in the ways that we can, everywhere that we can, to the people that we can, so they can be all they can. With God and all we can, we all can. We will do all we can by all means that we can, in the ways that we can, everywhere that we can, to the people that we can, so they can be all we can. With God and all we can, we all can. Thank you very much, and may God bless care for the elderly in the United States. May God bless all of you. I wish you a wonderful, most splendid, successful journey back home. God bless you for accepting me. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.